Stealth Boy, created by Robco Industries for the US Army. It was one of the most advanced pieces of technology before the war. When activated, the Stealth Boy can make the wearer go from somewhat translucent to almost completely invisible. Don't get any ideas. And thankfully, the US considered it strictly military hardware. The way you would go about using a Stealth Boy is very simple. Just strap it onto your wrist and then press the big red button, and boom, now you're invisible. You can now go borrow whatever you like without fear of getting caught. Some of you might be wondering why the Stealth Boy I've been showing looks different than the ones you've seen. That's because there are actually two different models of Stealth Boys. The one I've been talking about is the wrist-mounted model. The other is waist-mounted. Don't worry though, both models are functionally the same. The only difference is where you carry it. And for my pre-war collectors out there, if you want to get your hands on both versions of the Stealth Boy, you're going to have to take a long walk. You'll find the wrist-mounted version near the Capital Wasteland, Southern California, the Midwest, and the Mojave Desert. And if you're looking for the waist-mounted version, you can find it in or around the Commonwealth or Appalachia. Now I can bet some of you are wondering how it even works. How does this fancy watch or this weird looking box make us invisible? Well, I got some good news and some bad news. The good news is, we know it generates some type of force field that takes in light from one side, then replicates that light and sends it out the other side, making anything inside the force field practically invisible. But the bad news is, that's all we know. Remember when I said Robco created the Stealth Boy and how it's the most advanced piece of technology? Well, what I didn't tell you was that Robco didn't actually invent the technology. The United States asked China nicely for one of their stealth suits, and after China sent one over, American scientists started reverse engineering it, which I'm sure you could have guessed ended up having the stealth tech we now find in Stealth Boys. But the thing is, they don't even know how it works. American scientists were in the process of fully understanding the stealth suit, but, you know. And even though nobody really knew the science behind it, the US Army deemed the Stealth Boy reliable enough to be mass produced. But because of this lack of knowledge, the Stealth Boy has many problems. The first of which is that the battery life sucks. It can last anywhere from 30 seconds to a few minutes, which might not seem that bad until you realize the Chinese stealth suit's invisibility lasts forever. But the biggest problem with Stealth Boys is that if you use it too much, it can literally change your brain chemistry. Some symptoms of overuse include paranoia, anxiety attacks, heightened aggression, and schizophrenia. If you see any of these signs, please stop using Stealth Boys immediately, because if you don't, the effects will become permanent. And for those that don't believe me, head over to the West Coast and find yourself a Nightkin. They are the perfect example of what happens if you overuse Stealth Boys. There are many other versions of Stealth Boys across the wasteland. The one we've been learning about is the most common version of the Stealth Boy, the Stealth Boy 3001, or more commonly known as just the Stealth Boy Mark 1, which as we now know comes in a wrist and waist mounted version. But there are still two more versions of Stealth Boys we haven't talked about. The Mark II, which was in its prototype phase right before the bombs dropped. It was created to try and solve the low battery life of the Mark I, but sadly didn't enter mass production. And the Mark III, developed by the Enclave in Appalachia shortly after the bombs dropped. The Enclave improved on the Mark II's design, allowing the Mark III to last 3 times as long as a standard Stealth Boy. There's also rumors of there being modified versions of the Mark I Stealth Boy all over the wasteland. First of which being the Railroad Stealth Boy. For those of you who actually believe in those Commonwealth sin stories, this one might interest you. My sources tell me that the mysterious organization that calls themselves the Railroad modified a waist-mounted Stealth Boy to last a little bit longer than usual. This one's a little hard to believe in my opinion, just off the fact that the Railroad supposedly made it. Get me some proof on the Railroad even existing and I might believe you. The final rumor comes from Appalachia. I was told that there was a modified Stealth Boy that people called the Phantom device. And I say called and not call because the Phantom device hasn't been seen since around 2102. It supposedly acted just like the Mark I Stealth Boy, but when activated would release a gas that would make everything within it go mad and start attacking anything that moves. And that's everything you need to know about the Wasteland's best stealth devices. If you enjoyed the video, why not give it a like? And if you want to be notified for my next upload, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell. Either way, thanks for watching.